Once upon a time, we had a foster dog at Train Walk Poop who lived there full time. We've done that a few times over the years. But this dog that I want to tell you about, his name was Nico. He was a pit bull lab mix, and they were having trouble finding him a home, so they asked us if we would foster him, and we did. He had some resource guarding issues, which means if people tried to approach his food bowl, he would kind of try and bite you. It was a little intense that way. Other than that, he was pretty sweet. He did have some aggression issues with other dogs, but they could be kept in check as long as we picked the right playmates for him and stuff. So anyway, I was taking him, we were training him day in and day out, and I was taking him to a big open field and teaching him some e-collar training so that he could learn to come and called off leash and all that fun stuff, so that he could be, have all those skills that would make him more adoptable. And I took him to this field where there's never distractions, just me and him wide open. I let him drag a 30-foot long leash. Usually we do 15 feet of leash, but he was a little more intense guy and very fast. And so I said, you know what, I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna give him 30 feet of leash. That way, if anything happens, I can easily just step on that leash and pick it back up and we should be good. So, as fate would have it, I dropped the leash for the very first time. He was doing so well, listening to me so well. And literally 5 seconds after I dropped that leash, a cat ran across the field. I have never seen a cat in this field in my life, and before or after this incident. But it just was bad luck. He took off after the cat immediately, and I went to step on the leash and it was gone. Like, he was gone so fast that I didn't even have time to step on it. So he's running after this cat, and luckily the cat went between some bushes, which really saved its butt because he was, about to catch it. And then I corrected him with the e-collar, and it paused him for a minute, and then he was like, you know what, I think I can get around this bush and go get that cat. So he took off again and wanted to go get the cat. So I had to correct him multiple times with the e-collar, and each time he was settling a little more, and he was thinking a little bit more about coming my way. And there's a specific technique that we use, excuse me, that I don't have time to go into right now, but the way we do it is we are always sound happy and look happy. So even though I was scared shitless because I was worried I was gonna lose this dog, or at least have to chase him all over this big open field in this trail area, and I of course the first thought in my mind is like, oh my gosh, the foster group is gonna kill me. And we work through cause.org, and so I was already terrified about that conversation, but even more than that, I was terrified of going and telling my staff that, hey, I'd lost our foster dog or something like that. I was terrified. So luckily he had the e-collar on, he had the long leash on, and I had plenty of treats on me, and I used heavy amounts of praise. I didn't scold him at any point. And so when he was thinking about chasing this cat, which for him was probably the most fun thing that had happened to him in months or maybe ever, and so calling him off of that was a very hard decision for him to make. So when he did look at me and give me some attention, I made sure to tell him what a good boy he was and do my best to encourage him to come my way. Like I say, I think it took me like 5 or 6 times. It felt like it was like 5 minutes, but it really was only probably 30 seconds. But I finally got him in, gave him lots of praise, lots of affection. Tried to give him treats, but he didn't want any because he was like, the adrenaline was so high, he wasn't thinking about food at that time, unless it was a cat, probably. Anyway, so I learned how much he loves to chase cats that day. We obviously didn't know that until then. And it was a bit terrifying and a bit embarrassing that so even dog trainers, we make mistakes. I made the call that he was ready for that step, and clearly he wasn't. And when you go out in the field, you can't control the environment, right? So it's a little trickier once you get out there, because things can just pop up and suddenly you've got to adjust on the fly. So we try and control for as much as we can to set dogs up for success, so we don't have to correct multiple times with the e-collar, but it's nice to have that tool available in case something doesn't go according to plan, and It allowed me to get a dog who was really frustrated with being in a kennel all the time. It allowed me to get him some freedom, some off-leash running time. Obviously that day we didn't do a whole lot of that, but there were other days where everything went really well and he was able to stretch his legs and run and chase butterflies and grasshoppers and sniff everything, and like that was really effective. I think that's really important for all dogs, but especially a dog who's been in foster care, he's been in shelters, and doesn't have a regular family. They get really frustrated with life, even when they're living with us at Train Walk Poop. I can tell after about week 3, especially week 4, those poor guys are just frustrated with life. It doesn't matter how much training time we spent with them, like working with them, giving them treats, social classes. They just hit this wall where they're just like, am I just gonna live in a kennel? Like, it just doesn't feel right. So you can tell that frustration just piles on. And the happiest I ever saw him was out in that field running, having a good time. And well, he did have a good time chasing that cat too. So yeah, I think that's the whole story. So moral of the story is, you're not always going to be 100% right in your assumptions. You're not always going to do everything perfectly, but luckily for us, dogs are very forgiving, and we can always take a step back, regroup, and start again, and figure out the right way to help the dog in front of us. And the same thing will be true of your dog. No matter what mistakes you've made or mistakes your dog has made, we can work through those. You just have to find the right approach that motivates your dog in the right way, and you can reach the goals that you have for your dog. So have a lovely day.